Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you that you're joining us. You're joining me to study the Bible as we look at the scriptures this morning. I'm reading from the book of Chronicles, 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 9 to 10. Now, this is the story about this man called Jabez. I read and I quote from the Bible. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. His mother had named him Jabez, saying, I gave birth to him in pain. Jabez cried out to the God of Israel, Oh, that you would bless me indeed, and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me, and keep me from sin. And God granted his request. As we read the Bible, ladies and gentlemen, it's coming from the book of Chronicles. But before I talk about this man called Jabez, let me just tell you a brief background in this part 1 of the message about the book of Chronicles. The book of Chronicles is actually a record of the history of the Israelites. In chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, chapter 8, and up to chapter 10, the historian records the genealogy of all the Israelites from Adam to Abraham. Now, he mentions name by name. He was very particular so that they know their line, their historical line. But when he reaches chapter 4, he says, let's take a pause about this man called Jabez. Now, he says Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. Now, this man is taking a break. After recording the names of all these individuals, remember I said the book of Chronicles is about the history of the Israelites. We have the records of their battles. We have the records of the prophets. We have the records of kings. We have the records of generals. We have the records of the battles. We have the records of general society. But when he reaches at this man called Jabez, he makes a pause and says, there is a man I want to talk about who is called Jabez. We are told in the Bible that Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. The names of his brothers are not mentioned. The name of his mother is not mentioned. The name of his father is not mentioned. But the writer pinpoints only Jabez and mentions him as an individual and says, I want to tell you what this man did. He was more honorable. What made him to be more honorable? Jabez was born out of pain. The mother says, I gave birth to him in pain. Now, we don't know what kind of pain the mother was going through. Maybe she was sick when she was pregnant for Jabez. Or maybe the child was born late. Instead of 9 months, the child was born 10 months or probably 11 months. Or the child maybe was born out of rejection. The father to Jabez did not take responsibility about the pregnancy. Or maybe we never know, maybe the mother was sick during the time when she was pregnant for Jabez. Or it's possible she was undergoing a lot of emotional pain. And therefore she named him Jabez. This name Jabez is associated with pain, mafuto, mapenzi, and all those names that we give in our local languages. But Jabez wanted to defy the name that was given by his parents. He was being weighed down by the problems that he was going through. He grew up as a boy who was poor. He grew up as a boy who was in normal society. He was undergoing pain and all those things. The history was bad for Jabez. I don't know your history. I don't know how you came up to be who you are today. But you have got a history, poverty, pain, and all those things. But Jabez says, I will not live. I will not continue with this kind of life. He was tired. He had a lot of problems. He had a lot of issues he could not share with anybody. Until he said, enough is enough. Jabez cried out to God. This reminds me of the story of Samuel Booth. He was sent to India to go and open the Salvation Army. As he was in India, he tried to evangelize and make people understand about the gospel of Jesus Christ. But there was no change in the people. Then he wrote to William Booth, I've tried my best, but nothing is happening. William Booth answered, have you prayed? Then he went into serious prayer, and there was no change. Again, he wrote to William Booth, his father, said, I have prayed, but there's no change. William Booth replied, have you fasted? He went into serious fasting. There was no change. Again, he wrote a third letter. William Booth replied, have you cried? Samuel Booth went into serious prayer, fasting, and crying, pouring out his heart to God. And there was a change, and results were being seen. We see the army in India today. Ladies and gentlemen, when Jabez cried out to God, he knew that what is happening around me is not normal. The problems that you are going through, the issues that you are going through are not normal. Until you realize there is God, the supreme being, who you need to connect yourself. As soon as you do that, as soon as you realize that alone you cannot sort out all the problems, you definitely reach out to God. When Jabez prayed, he prayed what I would term as a selfish prayer. He said, all that you would bless me. He didn't talk about his mother. He didn't talk about his brothers. He didn't talk about society. He didn't talk about anybody. But he was tired about the issues about himself. He is not selfish. There are some times when I know you care about people. I know we are called to love others above ourselves. But there are some times when you need to reflect about yourself. There are some times when you need to reflect to God himself. To connect yourself. Cry out to God. Look at yourself and know what God should do about your life. There are problems, ladies and gentlemen, that you cannot share with your friends. There are issues that sometimes if you share even to your best friend, they will bring shame upon your life. You know yourself. But Jesus knows you deeper than we all know you. You cannot hide from God. And he's saying, my God, my child, just come back to me. Talk to me. I'm waiting for you. I want to listen to you. I will not condemn you. I know you are a human being. Jesus understands us. There is no better person who understands human beings in heaven than Jesus himself. Because Jesus was a human being. Jesus was a man. Jesus was a boy. Jesus was a carpenter. Jesus used to eat. Jesus was a human being. He understands what sickness is. He understands what sin is. He understands what temptation is. He understands what emotional pain is. He understands the secrets of life. He understands us in and out. If I may be sarcastic to you, you are wasting your time by keeping quiet to yourself. Talk to Jesus. He's waiting for you. When Jabez says, bless me, the word bless, a blessing, is a divine favor. Something that cannot be done by nature. It takes divine intervention for it to happen. And that is what Jabez was praying for. A divine favor upon my life. All that you would bless me indeed. Not just a blessing, a real blessing. Not just a blessing whereby you have to tell people how God has blessed you, but all people who will see before you even tell them how God has blessed you. That was the kind of blessing that Jabez was looking from God. You know, your faith. Some things do not require faith. Those things that you can do on your own, it just requires your personal effort, your personal thinking. But the moment you do, you start thinking and start planning big that is beyond you. You know that this I can't do on myself. It takes God to intervene. That is what faith is. All that you would bless me indeed. It doesn't take God to buy you a bottle of water. Just your effort. If you're failing to buy a bottle of water, you're failing to buy this and that, small things, just means you're lazy. And you need to work hard. But there is a point where you work hard, you do your best, you plan, and you need God for bigger things. Come back to God. Listen to God. Talk to God. He is waiting for you. Whatever challenge that you are going through, I know some people are weighed down by COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, God is greater than any pandemic. God is greater than any problem that you're facing through. God is greater than everything that is going on in your life. Look out for part 2 of the message. May God bless you.